Hey there. Welcome back to Bloodborne. It's been a hell of a night for the people of Yharnam. Some more than others. The ones that are still living continue to have a hell of a night. The ones that it's a little bit too late for, well, their night is over. We've explored Yharnam pretty thoroughly. We've seen pretty much all there is to see. And now there's only one or two, or maybe a couple, steps left on our journey to end this nightmare once and for all. However, you may recall that there is one locked door that we have left to open here in Yharnam. One more secret that remains unrevealed, and one more party of the Bergenward Schism that remains unaddressed. We've talked about the scholars, we've talked about the healing church, we've talked about the Mensis College, but we haven't yet talked about this mysterious choir that we've seen a couple of notes about. You may remember that we found a note that said, "The sky and the cosmos are one," from a mysterious member of this choir some time ago. And in Yahar'gul, we found a key to the upper cathedral. And so, as the sky grows purple, the moon grows red, and the enemies grow tougher, let's say we go exploring on one last little trip to Cathedral Ward. 'Cause who knows? Whatever we're about to find up here may be something that's worth finding, and, you know, not some terrible, horrible secret that'll make us all sad and depressed and feel bad for the people of Yharnam. Although I don't know about you, but my time for feeling bad for the people of Yharnam ended quite a while ago. Now, let's see what's behind door number 3, with the upper cathedral key, shall we? Why, it's Upper Cathedral Ward, of course. And a gribbly. Immediately a gribbly. It's adorable. And it should not be. Listen to the howling wind. The eerie silence. This is how you know. We're getting close to the end. Look at how close we are to the clock tower, too. What with the celestial dial and all that stuff pointing towards the stars. Interesting looking place. If you look down at just the right angle, I don't think it's on this side, you can see the very, very tippy top of the Hunter's Dream Workshop, which is kind of neat. And of course, the residents of Cathedral Ward are still here, and they are not going to let us access the place without a fight. Do you hear music? I got a little distracted there. This time, let's not get distracted by ambient music and take care of these gentlemen before they become a problem. Yes, the enemies in Upper Cathedral Ward are pretty tough. They do not go down without a fight. Clearly, by the amount of damage that just these standard enemies are dealing, this is an endgame area. I mean, and we're being attacked by Cthulhu babies immediately. But, I may regret attacking the Cthulhu babies in a moment. Also, the Cthulhu babies do frenzy. I really should have put that on my hotbar, but, I didn't. Hey look, it's, the courtyard that leads over to the Grand Cathedral entrance, which is right down there. How about that? I looked up very briefly when we were exiting the Grand Cathedral on our way to Hemwick quite some time ago, and I believe I mentioned this building up on a hill overlooking the forest leading to Hemwick. Well, welcome to Upper Cathedral Ward, everybody. The final destination, the final optional area that we have to visit in Bloodborne. And let me tell you, it is appropriately eerie. These little guys, I believe they are called celestial children. They are kin, as you can tell by their weakness to bolt, and the fact that they bleed that sickly, pale yellow blood. Also the Great Lake rune just hanging out near them. We'll learn a little bit more about these little kin dudes as we go, and I do have a bonus feature talking about them, or at least addressing what they are. But if you get bitten by them, it does quite a bit of frenzy, and don't worry, as the LP goes on, we will learn the dangers of frenzy. Very, very well. Some of these things aren't hostile to you. The ones over on the right, they will slowly waddle up to the edge, and then they will stare creepily at the clock tower. There are birds here too, because, I mean, of course there are. Oh my god, and the birds do a lot of damage now too. Everything does a lot of damage. We're in the final stages of the game. I mentioned that. I mentioned that as the game goes on, everything starts to do an absolute ton of damage to you. These birds, man, these birds are really good at chip damage. Man, that moon is looking very sickly. It's more of an orange color from up here than a red color, but still, it kind of gets the message across. That is not normal. Oh. The front door is locked. I don't believe I tried it, but the front door is locked, so we need to find another way in. There's another glowing scythe gentleman up here, who may or may not be a giant pain in the ass. So we're just gonna take care of him before he becomes a problem. And speaking of problems, the inside of this building is very dark, and it is chock full of brain suckers, which are bad. Brain suckers are very bad, and you do not want to get sucked by them, because they'll steal your insight. Oh ho! Some fancy new duds. I think it's time that we get dressed up, you know? Gotta get pretty. Gotta get gussied up for the occasion. The choir outfit is one of my favorite, God, the music's getting louder. The choir outfit is one of my favorite outfit pieces in the game. We've seen it before. The NPC that we fought at Bergenworth was wearing it. So hey, that's kind of neat. Oh. Hello. Hi. The werewolves here are very tough. There are a number of them here, and these glowing blue eyes that they have mean that they are, shall we say, in advanced stages of beasthood, which makes them particularly dangerous. But yes, the NPC we found at Bergenworth, I believe I mentioned her name is Yuri. She is there, presumably, looking for hidden secrets kept by Master Willem. Because she works for the choir, the final party involved in the Bergenworth schism, who we are going to learn extensively about in the bonus features for this episode. Oh shit. Oh, that's not good. Yeah. So you remember how I mentioned that the werewolves here are very tough? Well, they are also one of the only enemies in the entire game that drops bloodstone chunks. So, if you want bloodstone chunks, this is where you have to get them unless you want to go plumbing through the chalice dungeons, which only give them kinda scarcely as rewards. And the problem is that they have, I think, like a 2.5% chance to drop them, I think it is. It's minuscule. It is absolutely tiny. So there's not a lot of ways to get extra bloodstone chunks in this game, and it kind of sucks. I really don't like these noises. I really don't like them. The noises are scary. And they echo, and the music is just not helping things. There. I'm just glad that the enemies here are kin, so they're weak to bolt. And hey look, it's the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge. One of the final badges that we need for the Bath Messengers. That one unlocks a bunch of random stuff. I think it unlocks like bolt paper and some other things. Oh god, hello. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Did I mention that the enemies here are pretty tough? I think I did. You know what? I'm pretty sure I did. The enemies here are a giant pain in the fanny. They do so much damage. All the enemies here do so much damage, and it's so obnoxious. Bloodborne just has this problem where, like, they expect you to be going whole hog on vitality. And even then, I'm getting killed in like 2 or 3 hits from some of these enemies, which is not cool. And all of these werewolves respawn too. So you have to fight all 3 of these werewolves every time you come through here. It's really annoying. And I have found that the best way to take these werewolves on is to just do this. Just attack them through the door, because they can't get through. They're just going to kind of pile on top of each other, and it's just the easiest way to deal with them, you know? God, and even then, look at this nonsense. At least there's a lot of room to maneuver if you decide to head down onto the floor, you know, down the stairs. So yes, the choir, the final member of the Bergenworth schism that we have not yet met. We've seen them, we've heard about them. They've been in the background of Bloodborne since pretty much the beginning. But we may or may not have met, personally, a member of the choir in the past, which I will discuss a little bit later in this video, and in the bonus feature, extensively for this episode. But who knows? We may very well have met the choir before at some point, or at least seen their dealings. What I find interesting about them is that they are strangely disconnected from all of the goings-on in Yharnam. There aren't any beasts here, it's just kin. The beast plague seems to have completely passed this place by, which is understandable because, like, how would any beasts actually get in here? You know, it's up on top of a cliff. I just find it interesting that the safest way to protect yourself from the beast plague, as we've seen, seems to be just locking the doors. You know, there weren't really any beasts in Canehurst, there weren't really any beasts in Hemwick, and now there pretty much aren't really any here either. There's just this eerie music, and these nasty, creepy experiments, and all this insight sitting around too. There's a shortcut door, but we don't really need it, because we would have to run by the werewolves anyway. Pearl slugs. That's another chalice dungeon material for a chalice that we may or may not get at the end of this level. As well as a blindfold cap. The blindfold cap is the helmet worn by members of the choir. You know, it's more of that representation of, like, eyes and seeing things that are not meant to be seen, and all that stuff. Tonitrus is doing work here. It's really doing work. Without it, or some other way to do bolt damage, this would be a pain in the ass. Also, what we've just picked up there is the dirty secret of the choir. This isn't just their home base, it's also an orphanage, where they kidnapped children and did experiments on them. So that's nice. Well, I suppose there's only one thing to do at this point, then. Greetings, Moon. It is I, C. Jacobs, come to make contact and end the hunt. No? Alright, well, I tried. There's another shortcut door there on the left, but all it does is lead out to that balcony, so there's really no point. And plus, it unleashes those brain suckers that are standing up there, so if you go around the outside of the building, they'll be there and they'll try to suck you. Try to steal your insight. So, great. Experimenting on children. That's what it's come to, huh? That was the choir's dealings. That's what all those little babies are. They're people that have either been experimented on or have been born from women that have been kidnapped by the Healing Church. Those little gribblies there are the choir's experiments to turn people into kin, just like a certain doctor that we may have met at a certain clinic. The choir's got one of the more grisly, shall we say, backstories. I really like the orphanage as an area, though. And not just because of the gate that someone really needs to apply some WD-40 to. But also because it's just such a creepy area. It's almost as creepy as Yahar Ghul. And now look at these statues. What could these possibly be representing? Oh. But here's one of the more interesting things. On the left over there, you may have noticed, there is a second clock tower. How about that? Oh no. Another one of these things. Great. So this is something that a lot of people miss. Behind the first clock tower, the astral clock tower, is a second one that has an actual clock associated with it. Which is really interesting. And who knows? Maybe someday we will see the inside of that clock tower. But for now, this is as close as we're gonna come. You see, Yosefka had a lot of ideas, or Yosefka's doppelganger, I suppose, about how to turn humans into great ones, or kin, as we ended up calling them. But the question is, what if there was another way? Like, say, perhaps growing them from flowers en masse. This is the Celestial Emissary, the boss fight of the Upper Cathedral Ward. Initially, all of these gribbly dudes look the same, but one of them, that one there in the middle that I have targeted, affects the boss health bar, because he is the Celestial Emissary. But it's okay. because he doesn't stay hard to identify for long. These guys are very, very weak to bolt, but if you back off, he'll grow some worms out of his head, some space worms, and some bad things will happen. Very, very bad things. Like, for example, he'll start shooting magic, or doing more damage, or the other ones will crowd you, and then things will get, perhaps, a little bit hairy for you. Have I mentioned that this boss does a lot of damage? No? Okay. He does a lot of damage. Let's try this again. My way. Beast blood pellets are very, very useful for when there are multiple enemies in a boss fight, because these little blue guys will spawn from these flowers infinitely until we take care of the big guy, the big man on campus. So, we can use these little guys to smack them around and build up our beasthood meter really fast, and then do a lot of damage per hit. And then we can buff our Tonitrus and just wail on the guy. Of course, my Tonitrus is at risk, so we're going to be using the Saw Cleaver for this, but as you can see, we're doing quite a bit of damage. Of course, if I get hit, it will kill me in 1 or 2 swipes, but, you know, that's just the risk you take when you become the glass cannon. I like the Celestial Emissary. It's kind of a cool gimmick for a boss fight. But I do wish that it was a little bit harder to pick out which was the correct guy. Like maybe if 1 or 2 more of them became big aliens or something. Still really dangerous, even with the beasthood. But you know what? It was fun. It's a shame that my Tonitrus broke at such an inopportune time, because then... Because, boy, I would have just eradicated this guy if the thing had been actually working. Oh well. Be gone, foul aliens. This is no place for mad science. Not in my front yard. So that's it for the Upper Cathedral. I suppose we're done. I guess I'll see you next time when we... Wait a minute. This leads into the Grand Cathedral. How about that? Well, well. It seems we've found our way up to the rafters. If we happened to look up when we were in the Grand Cathedral, we would see some rafters up here with an item on it, with no way to reach it. And now, I don't know, like 10 hours later, we have finally made it and received our reward of a Call Beyond, the spell that Yuri was using to kick my ass. Now we can use it using one of the magic slugs that contains celestial energy. And in addition, there are more kin here. There's a little version of the big guy. God, ugh. I don't like the worm head. The worm head is nasty. The space worm head. Ugh. But behind the Grand Cathedral is what we really came here for. Because way at the bottom down here, by these friendly little dudes, is the Altar of Despair. You see, there's one more secret that the Healing Church has been keeping hidden from the rest of Yharnam, and from their fellow members of the Schism. The ace up their sleeve that allows them to purvey all of the research that they've done, the mad science experiments and the blood treatments, kidnapping people and subjecting them to experiments in order to turn them into kin Clearly, they had to figure out how to do that from somewhere. There was a note we read, some time ago, talking about a holy medium that allowed the scholars to communicate with Great Ones, or for the Thumerians to communicate with Great Ones. And this is it. This creature here praying at the altar of despair is Ebrietas, the daughter of the cosmos. And if we wanted to, we could kick Ebrietas' ass, get the Iz chalice, and travel even further out of Yharnam, to the fallen realm of Iz to find out the true secrets of Cthulhu bullshit. We could also use the altar of despair here to revive Queen Annalise with the queenly flesh by turning back time, and we could become a vile blood once more. But I'm not going to. I've had enough for one day. We're gonna leave Ebrietas be, because it doesn't seem like it wants to harm anything anyway. And so it's back to the hunter's dream we go. For a nice, well-needed rest. Because we've been to every optional area in the game now. And furthermore...
O Flora of the moon, of the dream. O little ones, O fleeting will of the ancients. Let the hunter be safe, let her find comfort, and let this dream, her captor, foretell a pleasant awakening, be one day a fond, distant memory.
And furthermore, amen. A while back, we met the doppelganger that replaced Yosefka in person by sneaking into her clinic from behind. There, we discovered the awful experiments that had been taking place there since she'd done away with the real doctor, turning humans into blobby blue aliens in the name of scientific advancement. The resulting creatures were technically a success, but in practice they ended up being hostile and mindless killing machines. Echoes of Yosefka's doppelganger show through in the Upper Cathedral. The orphanage is the choir's home base, an offshoot of the Healing Church with even fewer scruples when it comes to targeting Yharnam's citizens for their mad science. As the name implies, the choir set up shop in a building they claimed to be an orphanage, but in reality they used it as a cover for running experiments on children. These are the highest-ranking members of the Healing Church, doing the dirtiest of work in an attempt to create homegrown kin from luminescent flowers. As with Yosefka's experiments, these lumen flowers actually do work, creating genuine, original plant-born kin. As with their Frankenstein brethren, they are inherently hostile and don't care much for friendly communication. But through their experiments, the choir has essentially created a link between humankind and the great ones they look up to with such reverence. Naturally, being dumb, normal humans, they didn't do this alone. We've heard a couple of times so far of a big discovery at Bergenworth that jumped their research miles ahead in one bound. Some kind of medium through which they could communicate with the Great Ones, learn the knowledge they held on how to ascend humanity to godhood. Enter Ebrietas. In the long-forgotten land of Iz, with the chalice used to enter, the Bergenworth scholars were able to make contact with her, and somehow encourage her to share her knowledge with them. We could see evidence of Iz and Ebrietas all over Bergenworth, specifically growing right out of Master Willem's back. In the schism, Ebrietas was stolen by the Healing Church, or maybe she came with them willingly, and she became the choir's secret helping hand. Whether she's doing this of her own volition or not is up for debate, but given that she isn't hostile until you attack her, I'd assume she's not being kept at the altar of despair as a prisoner. With Ebrietas to guide them, the choir was able to impregnate women abducted by the Healing Church, giving birth to bona fide kin that will presumably eventually grow into the genuine article, given enough time. With 2 different experiments and ample evidence of cosmic power among them, The choir is the only party in Bloodborne who seems to have found success. The trouble is, this success has come at a pretty drastic cost, and there's no way to know what to do next after becoming kin. They've gained a lot of insight and done some pretty gnarly stuff, but there's still not much evidence that this is the true path to ascension. In the end, despite all of the advantages they had, the choir has hit the same dead end as everyone else. The only true way to become a Great One seems to be to just skip the kin process and go directly to godhood. But that begs the question that nobody in Yharnam seems to have an answer to. Is there even a way?